In these life-serving podcasts, Bhashkar Perinchery answers questions from everyone seeking pragmatic and effective solutions regarding emotional and energetic challenges, holistic health, and the inner journey.
If any questions are there from those who are participating from here or participating from elsewhere, we start with that.
Do you have any question? Questions can be asked over Spotify or can be sent as voice message over the podcast webpage.
Something that I notice in my day-to-day life is a tendency to behave in a way that I'm the victim. And what I see is the purpose is to obtain something. And then I start to not understand, or like watching it or knowing it, I don't understand if there is a real need or if it's a program that is continuously just behaving like this to obtain things. Because it's, my intention, my wish is to grow, to become more mature compared to that behavior that I can recognize. It's more childish or something connected to that. Because it's a loop of lower emotion, of suffering. And they drain energy and they drain actions too.
It's very valuable that we bring attention to this area because it is a challenge for everybody in different ways. As I have been the recent times bringing it into this perspective, our ego is like a cocoon. Each child requires an ego, each child gets certain conditionings, and in these conditionings, not only sociological conditionings, also biological conditionings, there are survival mechanisms. And they are all till the time where the child is capable of being conscious, having a relevance, because that is how the child can survive many uncomfortable and painful situations without being overwhelmed by it. So the ego becomes a kind of cocoon through which one is protected, where one can start slowly understanding and seeing. But as our capacity for consciousness deepens, it becomes necessary for us human beings to see that we are not this ego. We have to go beyond it. We have to confront it. We have to see that our reality is more deep. And a subtler and more decisive factor is to realize that each situation is new, each moment is new, each constellation is new. So there are no two exactly same situations. Once this becomes more feelable to you, once you consider it and its trueness becomes clear to you, then you see that you have to look at every moment consciously, every moment newly, every moment wakefully, rather than going from this automatism. The ego is a conditioned automatic process. And the ego has its pads, which you have heard from me saying, the program of automatic defense system. It is helping the child to survive till it is capable to exercise its own capacity of consideration, wakefulness, and look in each situation, in each moment. What is now an intelligent answer? What is now a creative answer? What is now a healthy response to this situation? And that is where you see that, oh, when I consider like that, I'm not only answering to the situation in a better way, it is starting to see life more deeply. See the reality with all its interconnectedness. And start seeing more the wonder behind the whole creation, the uniqueness of everybody, including yourself. So it's a deepening of the process of discovery. That is why everyone who can understand has to take the steps, take the initiative, and be consequently behind to go beyond the ego by confronting it. And you can put it in another way and say it is a certain kind of de-automatization. Rather than being like a robot or like a helpless animal which can only react in certain ways, you use your capacity of consciousness to look at the situation more directly, more wakefully, more deeply, seeing all the factors which are in the moment as much as you can. And this is something so significant. And that is how we human beings become truly human. Because we start seeing in every situation how vulnerable everyone is, how fragile everyone is, and how important it is that we try to understand the other rather than just reacting like a robot. Because in this de-automatization, you are not only trying to understand the other, you are also starting to see what way things are working in you, how the automatism is overtaking you. In the level of automatism, at some stage it must have found out when you play the victim, you have some advantages. It is just like the psychological studies have been making it more into visibility. When a child is not getting so much attention and feels a little bit left behind and lost, and then when it gets sick, and suddenly everybody is coming and bringing so much attention. Oh, what is with you? Do you want this? You want that? So, without any deliberate tendency to make it a trick, the child picks up this information and says, when I am sick, I get more attention, I get more love. So it starts falling sick without even it's deliberately or consciously attempting to do that. And then it becomes a strategy. It is a survival strategy, but not in the long run a healthy answer, not something which you can call intelligent in a deeper sense, because some of these people, they continue to behave even when there is nobody around. They start living on their own, but their reaction process goes on in the same way. And that is where you can watch and see that you need to learn to observe all that what is undercurrently working in you. And it is good that you have started noticing that there's a tendency to be in this victim's role. And don't call it good or bad. Just notice how things are working. What are the undercurrent factors? What are the interconnected tendencies are at work? What wishes are there? What strategy is more there involved in gaining something? So, when you are simply being transparent to yourself, in a wakeful way, not just trying to label it in some kind of way and finish with it, no. You have to go on looking very intensely, critically, wakefully, observing all the undercurrent factors which are behind it. And a point comes where you see that it is always connected with wishes, it's always connected with some identification and our clinging. That is why I often quote this indication from Buddha, because it is very significant to understand it. When he said, desire is the root cause of sorrow. When he speaks like that, it looks like he's being pessimistic. So, is he saying that we should not have any desire? Is he saying that we should not go into the life process? It looks a bit, when one interprets it in terms of black and white, it looks like that. But he's touching a fact which needs to be very courageously and honestly considered. Because when you see that the suffering is connected with the desire, you already start seeing that, okay, then I have a chance. Because it is my responsibility to cling to the desire or not to cling to the desire. When I cling to the desire, then I have to be with the consequences of it, because like every coin, it has two sides. And in the nature, in the reality, in the game of the dualistic process of human life, pleasure and pain are like two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one side of the coin and say, no, other side I don't want. When you take the coin, you take both the sides. And this is very important that we come to understand it rightly. So when you see that my suffering is connected with my clinging to this desire, clinging to this expectation, clinging to this wish, clinging to this ideal, how it should be, and seeing it very courageously and honestly, then spontaneously from within, from your intelligence, the answer will come. Don't cling when it is not healthy, when it's not possible. And the interesting thing is, as you look more deeply, you will see that in this world of duality, in this world which we see things on a materialistic emphasis, everything is changing. The body is getting older. The time is passing by. Things are born and things die. Things rise and fall. So it is our body. The body is born and it will die. Situations and feelings come and go. And more wakefully you go into life, the more clearly you see that I cannot hold to anything. I cannot cling to anything really, because it is like that in life. At first it is very frightening and shocking to see that oh, then how to live, how to go about life. But when you can see that there is some deep intelligence behind the whole manifestation of life, and there are basic facts which we have to admit, whether we are in that moment finding it good or bad. So relaxing with the facts of life, being ready to face all the things which are connected with it, at some point we come to a different way of going about life. It is a playful, non-clinging, and wakeful way of being with life. You know that you cannot cling to anything. You know that every moment is new. You know that we come alone and we go alone. So, deep within, when you see, okay, let me not make too much fuss around things which are not in any way possible to be held on. Let me go through it gracefully. Let me not create suffering, more suffering to myself or to anybody else. Let me go in a sensible way, intelligent way, in a beautiful way. Because whenever we are clinging blindly, we are always in the interactive process. When we get trapped in negativity, our reactions are coming from that state of entanglement in the negativity. So not only we react that way, the way we see, the way we make conclusions, they are all based on this settlement which we get into. So the more clearly and deeply you see, the more urgent it becomes for you. Because when you see that every moment, if you don't bring in your awareness, if you are not being consciously with this situation, you are letting a certain robot-like reaction arise in you, which you may regret afterwards, which may be working against your own deeper requirement and need. It may not be your intention to hurt anybody, but when you go carelessly and blindly and let the automatism overtake, you react in such ways, you do things, you proceed in that direction, and then afterwards it becomes almost difficult to come out of those settlements, because when somebody has been doing some very strange and unhealthy things, everybody is putting this person in that role, and one gets into the defensive. So one is trapped in the fighting process. When you bring your attention to all these subtler factors which are involved, then you see that you have to go behind and beyond every settlement, every attitude, every strategy, so that you are not continuing to behave in a robot-like way. This is what de-automatization in the inner process means. Be present. Be with your intelligence, be with your heart, and answer with your fantasy and creative potential. That is our chance as a human being. And if you look with a little more distance at some point, you will clearly see that all the challenges, big and small, are invitations from life so that we can discover our true nature, where we can be free and awaken to our divinity, awaken to the joy, the love, which is our innermost reality.
A lot more questions to be answered.
Right after this.
You are listening to the Life Surfing Podcast on Spotify.
Did you already know that besides the life surfing seminars, workshops, and talks, you can also book individual sessions with Bhashkar directly in person or over Zoom?
For that, please contact Nora under the email address or over the phone 0497617 09665. In case you want to write an email, you find the email address in the podcast description.
the Life Surfing Podcast. We continue with some more questions.
Any question or anything else in anyone? Anything to say, express? Those who are participating from here or participating from elsewhere. No questions are there. We sit the next 20 minutes with a remembrance to stay wakeful and present to all what is, without choosing anything, without trying to get rid of anything. Whatever is there, see it as deeply, as wakefully as possible, but let it also pass by. So from your side, you are not trying to interfere or to change anything. It's simply being wakeful to see every moment and all that what is involved in this moment as deeply as you can. With this orientation, with closed eyes, we sit the next 20 minutes.
The Life Surfing Podcast will be back next week. In the meantime, make sure that you're following us right here on Spotify.